The more you care, the less they do. The moment you start caring, they start pulling away. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't say anything wrong. You just started to care. And somehow, that was enough to make them disappear. This isn't about bad timing. It's not about being too much. And it's definitely not a coincidence. There is a psychological mechanism happening beneath the surface, one that most people spend their entire lives activating without ever understanding it. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Think about the last time you really wanted something, not just liked it, wanted it. What made you want it so badly? It wasn't available. It felt rare. It felt like it could be gone. Now think about the last time you stopped wanting something, when it was always there, always ready, always giving. The human mind doesn't value what it always has. It values what it might lose. So the moment you became easy to have, predictable, always available, always reaching out first, something shifted in their brain. Not because you were less valuable, but because you no longer felt scarce. You became furniture, present, comfortable, invisible. And that's just the surface, because there's a deeper force beneath scarcity, one that has nothing to do with games or tactics, something darker. When you care deeply about someone, when you text first, when you check in, when you make yourself emotionally available, you are doing something they are not. You are carrying the weight of the relationship. And here's what psychology tells us. When one person holds all the anxiety, all the effort, all the emotional investment, the other person gets to relax. They stop feeling the tension that keeps people engaged. They stop wondering. They stop chasing, because the work is already done by you. Your caring became their comfort. And comfort, in relationships, is often the beginning of the end. Not because they're cruel, but because the human nervous system stops activating around certainty. We are wired to pursue, not to receive endlessly without ever having to reach. But here's what no one talks about. Why you keep doing it, even when you see it happening in real time. You already knew they were pulling away. You could feel it. The replies getting shorter, the energy shifting, that quiet, sickening feeling in your chest. And what did you do? You cared more. More effort, more checking in, more trying to fix something you couldn't name. This is not weakness. This is a wound. Most people who overgive in relationships learned early that love had to be earned. That connection was conditional. That if you stopped performing, stopped being useful, available, attentive, people left. So now as an adult, the moment you feel someone pulling away, your nervous system goes into emergency mode. And it says, give more, try harder, do not let them leave. But the very act of trying harder confirms their withdrawal. It makes the distance feel justified. It makes them feel crowded. And so they pull back more. The thing you feared becomes the thing you created. That loop has a name, and understanding it is the first thing that can actually break it. Psychologists call it the pursuer-distancer dynamic. One person moves closer, the other moves away. The closer the pursuer gets, the further the distancer retreats. And here's the cruel part. It's not always about who they are. It's about the role you've locked each other into. The moment you step back, genuinely, not as a game, the distancer starts to move forward. Because suddenly, there's space. And space creates curiosity. Curiosity creates desire. But most people can't do it. Because stepping back feels like giving up. It feels like abandonment. It feels like confirming their worst fear, that they're not worth chasing. So they keep pursuing, and the other person keeps pulling away. And they both wonder what went wrong. Nothing went wrong. The dynamic went wrong. And here's the part that's going to sit with you, because this dynamic doesn't just happen in romance. The friend group where one person always makes the plans and slowly becomes the one everyone takes for granted. The employee who works hardest, cares most, and somehow gets respected the least. The parent who sacrifices everything and watches their child drift further away. The more you give without being asked, the less it's valued. Not because people are ungrateful, but because the human mind assigns value based on scarcity, effort, and resistance. What comes easily is assumed to be worth little. What requires effort becomes precious. This is uncomfortable to accept because it means the world doesn't reward good people just for being good. It rewards those who understand how value is perceived. And those are two very different things. So what do you do with this? You don't stop caring. Caring is not the problem. Caring is one of the most human things you can do. The problem is caring as a strategy. Caring to keep someone. Caring to stop them from leaving. Caring because you're afraid of what happens if you don't. That kind of caring doesn't come from love. It comes from fear. And people can feel the difference, even when they can't explain it. Real connection doesn't require you to shrink your need for reciprocity. It doesn't ask you to give endlessly into a silence that never answers back. The people worth keeping in your life are not the ones you have to perform for. They're the ones who reach for you. Not because you made yourself impossible to lose, but because losing you is something they are unwilling to risk. And if someone is consistently pulling away from everything you are, maybe the real question isn't how to make them stay. Maybe it's why you're still asking.